Good morning and greetings to all of you. We are going through uncertain times with serious medical and economic issues. As doctors treating patients, we are constantly at risk of getting serious infections, not only for ourselves and exposing this to our families. The need of this hour is to be highly motivated and to remain highly motivated. I can draw experience as a neurosurgeon seeing at least 3 categories of patients in our regular day-to-day experience. Most of our patients are brain tumors, and 60% of brain tumors are cancerous. Many of them present with very simple symptoms, and it is only after doing an MRI scan we know that they have a serious issue which involves a brain surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation therapy. A diagnosis can suddenly drastically change a person's life and have serious impacts both economically and socially. The other kind of problems that we see on a regular basis is serious road traffic accidents, which can produce devastating injuries both to the brain and the spinal cord. And the brain, being part of the central nervous system, is unforgiving. A damage once done, it is permanent, and the family has to come to terms with serious disability which no one finds it easy to accept. Another category of patients which come to us very suddenly is brain strokes because of hemorrhages, often due to high blood pressure, which may not be diagnosed. All these issues have serious, not only medical issues, social and economic issues. As we see this day in and day out, we have to develop a certain methodology to say, what is that do we learn from all these and how do we keep ourselves inspired? It's only when you have a toothache, you remember you have teeth. It's only when you have a headache, you are reminded that you have a head. Only when you have any serious medical issues like a severe back pain, which incapacitates you from walking, you realize what it is to be well. Normally, we take all our faculties, our physical and mental well-being for granted. Whenever we see all this, the training that I do for myself and for my team is how blessed we are that we have all these faculties which we normally take for granted. And the more we experience a sense of gratefulness, and this is what I would call the attitude of gratitude, one thing is very certain: you cannot be grateful and miserable at the same time. And therefore, whenever you are grateful, you are happy. A great Indian master has said that there are 3 things that we need all of us to do in our life. I'm saying this because whatever happens to my patients can one day happen to me. And therefore, this period of well-being, both physical and mental, I know is only temporary. And one day I could be in the same bed where my patients are, and therefore, this period that we have is an important period, and we need to be able to make the most of our life. And how do we make the most of our life? I have something to suggest. This has come from a great master who says there are 3 rinas that all of us need to fulfill. And these are called Pitra Rina, Loka Rina, and Acharya Rina. Pitra Rina is our debt to our parents. One thing is very certain: we are not able to do for our parents what our parents have done for us. And therefore, it is extremely difficult to repay this debt. And the great teacher says, if you are able to live your life in such a way that others are able to say how blessed your parents are that they have a son or a daughter like you, that is one method of fulfilling the debt to our parents. The second is called Loka Rina. Loka Rina means a shift from being a consumer to being a contributor. Our daily work, especially as doctors, gives us a lot of opportunities to go an extra mile, to be a little more caring, to be a little more open, to give people more time to carefully answer all their questions. And when you do so, you are going an extra mile, and where you're making your day-to-day life a contribution. the Indian concept of karma yoga is important. What is karma yoga? Normally, we think a karma yogi is one who works very hard. And the teachers say, no, such a person, we can call him as a karmi, a hard-working person. A karma yogi is a very clearly defined thing. It is defined in 2 or 3 ways. One, a karma yogi is one who does more selfless activities, whose activities reach the benefits not only for himself, but to a large number of people. Those who do selfless activities are called karma yogis. There is a certain attitude in which the work becomes a worship. Normally, work becomes very binding. And how work can become worship? It is said 2 things. It is called Ishvara Arpana Bhava and Prasada Bhava. Ishvara Arpana Bhava means whatever work I do it as an offering for God. And whenever I do it as an offering for someone whom I regard, someone whom I respect the most, I will be certainly giving the very best. And therefore, if each patient who comes to me, if I'm able to treat as God, Kabir was a tailor, but he would visualize that whenever a person comes to him for measurement, he will say, oh, my Ram has come. Now, if you can have this attitude that I am serving every patient as God has come to me, that is called Ishvara Arpana Bhava, where I give the very best for my patients. For any service that we do, we get a certain remuneration, we get a certain feedback, we get paid for our services. Now, one of the problems with remuneration is always we tend to compare with what others and always feel bad about it. Again, Karma Yoga has an answer for it. They call it a Prasada Bhava. I don't have to translate what Prasada is in for an Indian audience. Whenever you go to a place of worship, you get something to eat, a sweet. And when you receive it with a very special attitude that I'm receiving something from God. You receive it very reverentially. You don't compare with what others have received it. Now, can I receive my remuneration? Can I receive whatever I have got? And if I'm able to make my work as a yoga, if I can make my work as a worship, I fulfill the second debt that is called Lokarena. The third and the most difficult debt to fulfill is called Acharya Rena. Acharya Rena is that all of us are born with a tremendous amount of potential. And life should not be a process of aging. Life should be a process of growing. If each day I can learn, I can be transformed. And if I can grow to my fullest potential, then my life becomes an offering, and I'm able to make the most of my life. We are going again through hard times. And in these particular difficult moments, we need to look for sources of inspiration of others who have gone through difficult moments and yet have come out well. I can't think of anyone better than the story of Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist. He was incarcerated in the Nazi concentration camps. Even though he was a very successful doctor, what he went through what every prisoner went. And as a doctor, as a psychiatrist, he made very astute observations of how people are able to take on their personal tragedies. Those who had a very positive attitude, who could bring in a sense of humor, even though they were not physically very strong, were able to survive the difficulties, whereas those who didn't have a positive attitude perished very quickly. And once he went through all the suffering, it is said there was a moment when he was put on the operating room and they made a forced surgical operation on him. He described that these people can do anything to my body, they cannot do anything to me. Then there is a will that overrides everything. And that is why we shall not take for granted the will of all our people. That even though we may expect a severe downturn because for 1 month the country has stopped, but yet there is a lot of resilience, just like how Japan came out after the Second World War. We do hope that this period of a lockdown is like a kind of a rejuvenation which will inspire people to come back and work with greater vigor to make up for whatever we had lost during this particular period of time. Viktor Frankl When he came out, he wrote a book, and the book is available now. It's called Man's Search for Meaning. And this book has laid the foundation of a new school of psychotherapy called logotherapy. Logotherapy means that I'm able to discover meaning, why. And those who are able to discover why are able to handle things much better. There are a few other inspirational thoughts that I would like to share. One which says, when you win, you win. When you lose, you learn. Whenever I lose, if I'm able to analyze what is that which brought out my defeat, I'm able to learn even from my losses. Helen Keller had said, can you convert your scars to stars? I would refer you to certain places in the world where people go through a lot of hardships, primarily because of bad weather. Many countries in Europe or many places in North America, I would take the example of Chicago, for instance. During winter, the temperatures can go deep sub-freezing temperature. It may be -10, -20 degrees. Even on the days when the winter is so bad, life continues to go normally for a particular reason. It is because they anticipate winter and they are prepared for winter. And the message for all of us is, we too will go through all seasons of our life. Are we prepared for the winter of our life? I will refer to a very sensitive person who saw three things. Gautama Buddha saw only three things which we see every day. He saw a sick person, he saw an old person, and he saw a dead body. And it occurred to him, if this can happen to me, what is the meaning of all this? Gautama Buddha was able to discover meaning. And for all of us, it is, how am I able to learn from all these situations? There is a book written by a Jewish rabbi which says, when bad things happen to good people, they do not become bitter, they become better. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita has given a nice quotation which says, Matra sparshasu kaunteya sita ushna sukha dukha adaya agama pahino nityatam titikshasya bharata. These difficult moments should learn to make us mentally tough, mentally so strong, because when my sense organs meet these sense objects, there will be experiences of heat, cold, sukha and dukkha. But I need to make a certain mental frame of mind that I'm able to tolerate everything, and I will be strong enough to handle all of these things. Dag Hammarskjöld, who was the Secretary General of the United Nations and a great source of inspiration to John F. Kennedy, he was also a Nobel Prize winner. He had said something. He said, for all that has been in my life, thank you. And for all that shall be, yes. And this is a great sort of prayer that I would like to give you. For all that has been, especially the difficult moments, I say thank you. And for all that shall be, I will say yes. Remember, this is not a passive acceptance. It is an acceptance like the Serenity Prayer, which says, give me the courage to change. Give me the courage to change the things that I can, accept that which I cannot, and the wisdom to know the difference. I will conclude with two stories which I love. And these are my gifts for you as you go from this session. It is a story of a man who constantly prayed to God, and one day God appeared to him and says, I will give you 3 wishes. You ask whatever you want. I've been bugged by your prayers. I don't want you anymore. The man looks at God and says, I'm very embarrassed to ask you this, but this is my request. And God said, what? He said, if my wife would die, I would have a lot of peace. And God said, very well, his wife died. At her funeral, so many people came and said she was such a wonderful lady. And when he heard so much praise about her glory, he goes back to God and said, I made a great mistake. I want my wife back. Now, 2 wishes done, and he had made a mistake. Now, he was very careful that he would not make a wrong choice. And he was so confused, he could not make a choice. Years passed until God appears to him and says, I have offered you a wish, why don't you take? Now, he was so happy to see God and said, can I have one more wish? And God says, what is this? Can you, in your intelligence, tell me what to ask? And this is what God has said is the best thing, or the best thing that you can ask God. And God says, I know exactly what you need at any particular moment. Whatever I give you is what is best for you. Ask to be grateful for whatever you receive. Friends, this is the greatest prayer. The Muslims call it Inshallah. The Christians say, thy will be done. This is the Jesus prayer. If only we are able to accept and cheerfully handle whatever the situation, we are able to make the most of it. I will conclude with one story from King Solomon. King Solomon sent a man with a very difficult assignment. The difficult assignment was this: I want you to bring something. When a happy man sees it, he will be sad. When a sad man sees it, he will be happy. He went all around the country, but he could not find it until he entered the shop of a jeweler. And the jeweler looked at him. He took a silver ring, inscribed something on it, and gave it to the man. The man took it, he was very happy, and gave it to King Solomon. King Solomon, when he saw the ring, he was so happy, he took all his expensive rings and put this ring on. And you know what is the inscription on the ring? This too shall pass. This too shall pass. Reflect on it. Thank you very much.